Welcome to a new episode of Outside the Panels with your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes.
Welcome everyone to an episode of Outside the Panels. I'm your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and with Halloween just around the spooky corner, now is probably a good time to talk about a new story featuring some of the classic horror characters of the past. To help me with that, I have a Kickstarter extraordinaire, writer-creator, George Michail. George, how's it going?
Hey, Johnny. Hey, thanks for having me on the show.
Oh, you're more than welcome. More than welcome. So, you have a book that has been described as Universal Monsters meets Game of Thrones.
Yes.
Right.
Cover of Darkness follows a family in medieval Romania. They get separated from each other. Yikes. And they encounter all those classic villains. It's about their journey back to each other, but along the way, they encounter vampires, werewolves, the mummy, creature from the Black Lagoon, and a steampunk Atlantean Frankenstein. Within that family, there's twin shapeshifters, boys that can turn into animals. So you got gorillas fighting werewolves in this thing. It's nuts.
Oh my God. Right. So, how did you manage to take such a mashup of different things? Because Frankenstein has been done loads of times. You know, I want, if I say vampires and werewolves, someone's going to shout Twilight at me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, don't
But
worry.
I know vampires in Twilight. Just saying. The fairies, not Twilight, not vampires, but that's another story.
Yeah, we got no sparkly vampires here.
Thank God for that. Yay. So how did you, what made you think? I tell you what, we'll have this classic horror setting, you know, medieval Romania, where the legends of yore first started with Dracula and Transylvania. And then think, well, hold on, we'll just add and add and add to make this whole kind of like universe.
Yeah, well, so when I was a little boy, I don't know if you remember, there's a movie called Monster Squad, written by Shane Black, who did Lethal Weapon and Iron Man 3 and stuff. And that was my babysitter one night when I was like 5 years old. And it just scared the pants off of me. So I've always had this kind of love-hate relationship with those classic monsters. So in the movie, the 5 classic monsters come to town, and it's up to this ragtag group of boys to try and take them down. And it's
sounds great.
Yeah, it's a classic. It's 1980s. It's kind of a weird one though, because it's not really scary for adults.
Right.
But if you're like, and it's too scary for like young kids. So if you're like in that like 12 to 13-year-old range, it's like gold. So I wanted to recreate that kind of feeling again of like all the monsters kind of teaming up, interacting with each other, and a family kind of battling against them. But we wanted to do our own take on it. So like our werewolves are Vikings in this. And
that's interesting.
Yeah. And our Frankenstein story takes place on the island of Atlantis. And he's resurrected by his widow, Dr. Mary Frankenstein. It goes terribly wrong, though, because the same restorative properties that brought him back to life bring back the dead. He's like the very first zombie.
Oh, see? It's like you've taken like the idea, thrown on a little bit of salt, and then thought, to hell with it, let's go nuts with the pepper, right?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely, man.
That's cool. I remember when I was a kid, there used to be on one of the British channels over here, BBC Two, I think it was, or Channel 4, I can't remember which one it was, but on a Friday night, they used to show all the black and white horror movies, you know, the Lon Chaney's and stuff like that. And we'd stay up, my mum and my brother and I would sit up and we'd watch these. And of course, they're not scary, even back then, you know, back when we were watching them on the old TV, and but still, the classic monsters, aren't they? What do you think the attraction is for characters like vampires and werewolves?
I don't know. I think that it's just, shoot, I'm not really sure what to say there. I just
What's the attraction to you for these characters then? Let's do that then. Let's do that one.
Horror in general. I like the feeling of being afraid, but also knowing that you're safe. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. You know what I mean?
Okay, yeah.
Right. So you know, you get those thrills and you get that kind of adrenaline of like, I'm in danger, but you know deep down that you're safe. So it's kind of this, you know, good feeling overall.
Yeah,
I love it.
you always like, I'll just turn this off just about now. Thank you very much. Go do something more fun. Right. I tell you what we'll do. You do have a Kickstarter going on right now. I think one of the things we should do is certainly have a look at the video from your Kickstarter. Shall we do that?
Yeah, it'd be great.
Yeah, cool. Let's bring that up then. 2 moments as we do all the video shenanigans. I should have a man in a chair for all this, but I really don't. All right, so there you go. This is, because I'm in the UK, this is showing you in pounds, but it is converted over. So you're currently at 2,390 Canadian dollars and 29 cents over 5. So you're halfway there, and you've still got 38 days, 20 days to go. That's amazing. That's really good. That well done.
Thank you. Yeah, we just launched yesterday.
Cool. Wow, that's impressive already. All right, so let's have a look at the video and see where we go from there. Okay, 2 seconds.
Breaking news. Out of Romania, reports of werewolves battling gorillas, lions, and even elephants have surfaced. For more on this developing story, we go to special Lycan correspondent. Wait, what? Come on, Karen, I just read the teleprompter. No, I don't think you're funny. Sorry for the false alarm. This is a video for the Cover of Darkness Kickstarter campaign. The graphic novel featuring thrilling artwork by the uncanny MJ Hibblen is 100% completed and ready to print. Set in medieval Romania, where evil lurks under the cover of darkness, one family will be pushed to their absolute limits. They will face legendary monsters and encounter obstacles they never imagined existed. Werewolves, vampires, Frankenstein, and the Mummy. When everything is on the line, simply surviving is not enough. I must say, this comic book really does look outstanding. So there you have it, Cover of Darkness, graphic novel, available now on Kickstarter. Put away your pitchforks and get yourself a copy today.
Wow. Whoa, that tells you straight away, doesn't it?
Yeah, I was pretty happy with the video we came up with for it. And this is the hardcover book. It's all 6 issues. We were released in comic book stores across the world from January until June of this year. And then this is like the hardcover collection. It's 160 pages. You get five monster origin stories. I should say that the book goes back and forth between our family's adventure. They're on a collision course with the monsters and the monsters' origin stories. So you get 5 monster origin stories and then the epic conclusion where everything comes together.
Cool. The link's down there so you can have a look at the Kickstarter. I know that's a huge link, but it's really simple. All you got to do is go to Kickstarter, type in Cover of Darkness, look for the one that says hardcover and card game, and boom, that's it. Simple as. It's not that hard. All right, but we will show that again later on. Excellent. So I think time to do a little bit further advertisement on this. So I just happen to have issue 1 to hand. Da, da, da.
Yes. So that's one of our variant covers by Scott McDaniel. Scott worked on Nightwing and Batman and Spider-Man, and he's an incredible talent and a legend. I know
who's Scott McDaniel. I've got Nightwing #1 somewhere out there. Yeah, good. Absolutely fantastic cover. Let's talk about creativity then. So you're down there, yourself and Chris Cam as writers. How's that working as a tandem? What's that like? Because I'm a bit like a takeover 10. I don't like anybody else playing with my toys. So how's that work for you?
It's been good. Like we're cousins. So
that means nothing.
Well, we grew up together and we were super tight. And so yeah, it's her name's Crystal, and she goes by Chris as her pen name. And yeah, we kind of write certain characters. So like as the story progresses, the family gets separated from each other. So we have really 5 main characters that we're following, and so she writes a couple of them and I write a couple of them, and then we take turns writing the monster origin stories. And we do, we send each other like our first or second draft, and then the other person works on it, so it really seems cohesive, and that they all has like the same voice.
So do you argue about which monsters you get to work with? So do you have a favorite monster, and does Chris have a favorite monster?
No, we're actually more possessive of our family characters.
Oh, all right, it's like that, is it? All right. So how did you divvy them up? Who decided who got whom?
Well, it was easy in the beginning, but once you start writing it, then it's like, oh, this guy's mine. Like you can't, like he wouldn't say that. He wouldn't do that. I know him.
Oh dear, bit fat Thanksgiving and all that sort of stuff is really fun at your place, then, isn't it? Yeah, really. All right, cool. So who settles the tie then?
Usually me.
Oh, right. All right, excellent. So you have the voice of 1 + 1 vote. Got it. So that asks me. I've got to ask a question then. Who's your favorite character in the book?
I really like Jonas. He's one of the shapeshifters. Yeah, he was kind of a bit of a slacker, and he has like just this incredible amount of weight and responsibility kind of thrusted on him and it's trying to see how he navigates through that with this kind of flippant attitude. It's fun.
It's like the reverse Peter Parker. With great power comes absolutely no responsibility whatsoever.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So, if you may speak for your cousin, Chris's favorite character, if you say Jonas again, that'll explain all the fights.
I think it's probably Zelina. She's a blonde. She's the youngest of the bunch, and she gets captured by vampires. And
I noticed when I read the first issue, the flip flop between the relatively present time with the family, and then going back to see the origin of a certain vampire. I'm not saying anything. At first, I was like, "What's going on?" But then I got it. I worked it out. I was like, "Oh yeah." The color schemes are dramatically different to sort of like highlight that you are in a different era. There are a couple of like text prompts on there as well. What was it like working with MJ Hibbelin?
He's incredible talent. He's English. He's in the UK there. He does everything digitally with his finger. He doesn't use a pencil or a stylus.
What?
Yeah. I've seen him work too. He just acts like a man possessed when he's drawing. His finger never stops moving. And he does all the line art and the colors. He loves these monsters. And like when I approached him about working on Cover of Darkness, I found him through his social media. He has like 250,000 followers on Instagram, and he's like, "This is my dream job." He's like, "I love monsters." So he's like, "This is a good script." He's like, I'm in.
Well, you know what? I totally can get that. I think definitely there's so much about the art I really like. The fact is that the monster elements absolutely stand out without a shadow of a doubt. The family moments it's gone for like, I'm going to say the word ethnic, and I don't mean it in like a derogatory way, but he's gone for like a really rural look for everything though, hasn't he? He's kind of really pared down. There's nothing modern about the characters' features, how they dress, how they act. It's very much of its era, and his pencil lines, his finger lines, I should say, kind of represent that, right?
Yeah. Well, the story's set in medieval Romania, but we do jump around from time zones, and as the story progresses in all 6 issues, that's quite a lot, because we have like our family gets separated, so we have 5 characters there that we're following, plus we're following the 5 big monsters, and they each get their own origin story. So there's a lot going on, but it all connects to each other.
Cool, excellent.
We were going for like that Game of Thrones sort of feeling. Like when I came into Game of Thrones late, and I got like the Blu-ray box set, and in the box set they had a map and they had like list of characters, and I was like pulling that thing out when I was watching the show, just being like, who's this and where are they from? And but like I just fell into that world, and we wanted to kind of recreate that sort of magic in our world too.
Well, I've got to be honest, I've never seen an episode of Game of Thrones. Well, I saw the first one, but not my cup of tea. But I get the idea that you want to create an immersive world, right?
Yeah.
And that's true of whether it be Harry Potter, Star Wars, Game of Thrones. The fact is, you want the Lord of the Rings TV show that's kicking around right now. You want the world, you want the reader to get invested and want to spend the time there, right?
Yes. And for us, like, we know that the monsters are what's pulling people in, and we spend a lot of time with those monsters. Like I said, they each get their own origin story, but our goal is to have the readers fall in love with our family characters as well. This is the start of a very large project, and we've been working on this for 4 years now. We have the follow-up series 100% completed. It's another 6 issues. It'll be launching November next year through SourcePoint Press, and then we also have 3 one-shots that are coming out that expand the history of some of the supporting characters. Orlok, the older vampire in the first issue, we get to see his origin story, and he's an elf warrior riding on a dragon and protecting the elf kingdom. And he's got a sick niece. He has to go on a quest to try and save her. Lots of cool stories in these one shots that are coming out in the spring.
Okay. Well, I can say after reading the first issue, I totally get where you're coming from. Yes, the art and the story of the vampires, yeah, it's intriguing. It's like, yeah, I can see that. Visually, it's stunning, absolutely. But you know what? By the end, obviously, there is a twist towards the end of the vampire story, which I'm not going to get into. But I totally got it. I was totally rooting for the family. I'm like, this is what I'm coming back to the book for. Yeah, fair enough. You've done great, cool takes and twists on the classic characters, like, you know, vampires, werewolves, Frankenstein. But to me, it's all about the characters. It's all about the fam. It's all about them, because you want to see them progress, you know, and you leave them in a bit of a cliffhanger in the first issue. And I'm like, what's happening next? What's going on? And, you know, and that's what you want. You've achieved it. You know, the writing has been absolutely spot on. That's kind of drawn me in. You think I've read how many comic books now? You know, so, you know.
Well, thank you.
Round of applause.
And one thing that's nice about the hardcover is that you get the whole story, and you can kind of binge it, because that was one of our complaints, is like of the series when it was being released issue by issue, was like, how does everything connect? And people weren't necessarily patient, and they're like, what's happening? I don't understand. How does this story connect with that story? But they do. They're all going to converge.
Cool. Babylon 5-esque with monsters. What was it made you get into comics in the first place?
I've always loved comics ever since I was a little boy. You know, growing up in the 80s and 90s, it was like Batman was just like the 1989 Michael Keaton movie was like just a cultural phenomenon. And then Batman the Animated Series and the X-Men cartoons, those got me into the comic book stores. And I had a copy of How to Draw Comics the Marvel Way by John Buscema.
I have that book.
Yes. I wore mine out, like just at the kitchen table. So I was just kind of obsessed with these things, and I always wanted to be a creative person. And as I got older and I got into high school, my art skills kind of faded away to nothing. You know,
practice is the key, my friend.
Yeah. And so I was just nervous about putting myself out there. I was afraid of failure, and I just didn't do it. And then a few years back, I was in a big car accident, and it gave me a good scare. I broke my back in it, and I was like, you know, life is short. Am I just going to be afraid my whole life? Or, you know, am I actually going to go for this and do this thing I've always wanted to do? And so I started making comic books.
Cool. Excellent. So Batman, X-Men are your faves?
Yeah, still.
Still.
Yes.
It's funny when you mentioned the X-Men cartoon. I was speaking to someone recently about cartoons, and it's like in the Spider-Man cartoon, he never punches anyone. In the X-Men cartoon, Wolverine never stabs anybody, and yeah, he pops his claws like every 10 seconds. It's crazy.
That's true.
Yeah. I think we're talking about how to show violence in comic books, because Batman the animated series managed it very well. They used like at least the first 3 seasons, they were using real guns, and you know, I think we're talking about when Robin's parents die and they just see the trapeze go, and then
Yeah.
yeah, that sense of like that sense of horror,
Yeah,
tension.
and it's almost more impactful when it's left to your own imagination, and you.
That's exactly what we were saying. We're like, you don't need to see everything; you just need to kind of like hint at it, right?
Mhm.
Right. Okay, I can see in your background you've got an Amazing Spider-Man cover going on there.
Yeah,
What's that? 299 or 300 or something?
that's
Like
300.
300.
Yeah, first Venom.
Well, first full Venom.
Yes.
Cameo beforehand, but yeah, you a Venom fan?
Yeah,
Yeah. Is that the horror vibe again?
absolutely. Yeah.
I'm a big
As lucky enough to meet Todd McFarlane, he signed my book there. So that's
Sweet.
cool. It's like a
Yeah.
3-hour wait.
I've interviewed Todd. He's a good guy. He knows his stuff. You talk about someone who's like uber confident. He's very much like, well, we'll see what happens. We'll do this, and you know, and off he goes. You know how he's managed to, you know, go from drawing comic books, then writing them, then create an image, co-create an image. Now McFarlane Toys, dudes, you know.
I work with a guy. His name is Ken Davis, and he's an artist that worked with Todd as he was kind of first getting started out. And he would do backgrounds for Todd, and at the time, like Todd didn't have like a drafting table or an art table at his place, and so he would come over to like Ken's house to use the table and like sleep on the couch. And it's just interesting to like think like from where he started to like where he is now.
But that's that drive, though. You know, that's he believes in himself, doesn't he? And
Yeah. Yes.
and that's probably the hardest thing to do as creative types, is for us to start saying, oh, you know what, we have got this, we can do this. You know, as you alluded to there. Right, time for a break before we get into your book further. Where shall we go? I tell you what, we talk about old comics or old comic times around the 80s, 90s. So only one place to go if you fancy some old-time comics. It's the Old Timers Comic Book Show.
Do you want to find out what makes the professor do his happy dance? Check out the Old Timers Comic Book Show, only on the UCPN.
There you go, the Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the hosts aren't old, but the comics most certainly are. Halloween version coming up very soon. There you go. Story-wise.
Maybe we could touch on the card game, because it's not just the hardcover. We also are offering a card game. It's super fun. I developed it with my 9-year-old daughter. We were playing this game, this playing card game called Golf. I don't know if you're familiar with it, where you get like dealt 4 cards. You're only allowed to look at 2 of them one time, and then you take cards from the draw pile, and you have to try and make pairs. And if you get pairs, you get your score down to 0, and everything that's not impaired counts against you. So this is like a simple old card game that we were playing quite a lot at parties. It's kind of fun because like if you forget what your cards are, you mess yourself up pretty royally, and it's neat in that you can like kind of hold a conversation and kind of drink and talk and have fun while you're still kind of playing a game as well. And so we took this simple game and we reverse engineered it, and we added monsters to it. We expanded it from 4 cards to 6, and we included MJ Hiblin's artwork in it. And there's special cards in this, like there's a Gravedigger card where you can dig through the discard pile and take any card you need. There's Goblin cards where you can steal a card from one of the other players. Death cards, resurrection cards. Yeah, it's pretty fun. and we've been playing it for about a year now with all our friends and family, and it's being put out through SourcePoint Games, and so it's cool because like this thing, like me and my kid put it together on like cue cards and just like handwritten, how to do it, and then to see it get developed into a proper game. And I just can't wait for it to be in people's homes and part of people's lives, and shared kind of family memories. I just think that's like super cool.
I think you've hit a bit of the nail on the head on this one, to be honest, George. Card games, they're not just like playing cards like a normal pack of cards, and it also doesn't have to be Magic the Gathering. There are lots of different variant and different types of card games kicking around right now, and I think when I've looked at the art of the pack that's on the screen there, for example, it just adds another layer to your universe. So the idea is you want to play the card game, have fun, but look at the art and go, what's this one about? Oh, I'll tell you what, I'll go back and read about it in the book, and off you go. And then that's it kind of, I don't want to say bookends, but bookends the kind of experience for the reader. Definitely. I think card games are absolutely brilliant at the minute.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be.
And one thing that's nice about this one is like I said, like it's not like you're sitting down to play Monopoly or Risk where it's going to be like a couple hour endeavor.
Yeah.
Like this game takes like 15 minutes to play. It's for two to four players. Yeah. And so what I do is like, we'll usually sit down and we'll play it like 3-4 times in a sitting, or you can also do it if you're like having a big game night with a bunch of friends. It's kind of a nice game to kind of split up your bigger games. So if you're playing like Pandemic for like an hour, then you break out this one, you play it for a few minutes, and then you play another game. And just to kind of mix things up a bit and not have it be like this epic long game that you're playing for hours.
See, you do have my Monopoly set. My Monopoly set has a card in it. It's a hurricane card. So if I'm losing, it's like, oh no, I've got a hurricane card. Whoosh, everything goes. Game over.
I remember playing Risk with some friends, and it was a husband and wife had like made an alliance, and the husband betrayed that alliance.
No way.
And attacked her, and they left like angry at each other. I'm like, it's just a game, guys. Like take it easy.
No. She's annexed mine. Yeah, all right, whatever. Excellent. So let's get back to your Kickstarter because I've got it on the page here. Let's just have a quick look. Where are we at? Pledge. So these are in Canadian dollars. 10. Then here we go. 13. The digital download of the graphic novel featuring the 6 mind-blowing covers. That's a good shout, isn't it? Six comics for $13.
That's about $10 US. It's
wow. £9 UK. Card game and PDF download.
Yeah, so that's for the card game. $30 Canadian, 22 US dollars. I'm not sure what it's in pounds.
£20. There you go. Cool. See, if I was that's the one I'd go for. Definitely.
The hardcover.
Yeah. I love the hardcover. The hardcover looks gorgeous. What else do we get? 55 or more, you get the cover and the PDF download, and that ships anywhere in the world.
So the hardcover is $40 US.
Okay.
And then so $75 Canadian, $55 US. You get the hardcover and the card game. And the PDF.
I don't think that's a bad price at all in any shape, way, or form. I think that's a really good price. When you think it's a hardcover book, so it's high quality, and you're getting the 6 issues, and you're getting the card game. Oh, man.
Yeah, for $55 for a hardcover and a card game, I thought that was fair. I'm going to be, I do quite a few conventions, and so I'm going to be selling these. And so I never want someone to buy one of my books on a Kickstarter, and then they come to the convention and they see me there, and I've got the book for like half the price they paid for it.
Yeah. Why I order?
Yeah, so I try and keep it consistent.
Yeah, it's a fair shout. I think I get where you're trying to come in. I really like the idea, but going to cons is there's a lot of expense in cons, man. So
There is.
Which cons are you going to? Where can people see you?
So I'm done for the year. I did 15 shows this year. I was all across Canada and into the States. Yeah, I've done like all the big shows. I've been at New York and San Diego and Toronto.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've done New York. You ain't got a thought bubble in the UK next year. There you know.
I'd love to come to the UK. That'd be amazing.
Thought bubbles, absolutely yes. Are there any monsters that you wish you could have included in the book?
Yeah, so
Without, of course, spoiling any sort of guest stars that are coming up.
we
So I'm going to come across Casper the Ghost, for example.
Casper. So that's what this Cover of Darkness Origins series is. It's expanding on. In the very last issue, we introduced a bunch of new monsters, and you get origin stories of those new monsters coming up. So first up in November is Cover of Darkness Origins. That'll be in comic book stores, and then in the spring we've got one that's called Cover of Darkness Femme Fatales, and then Revelations. So. And we were incredibly lucky to work with some amazing artists on this. Rags Morales from Identity Crisis and Action Comics is doing a short story for us. Nat Jones from Spawn, Andy Belanger, who's worked on Swamp Thing, John Delaney from Justice League Adventures. So these one-shots are our opportunity to do like our own take on the Phantom of the Opera, on the Bride of Frankenstein. So the world and the universe is growing, but even though it sounds like there's a lot, and it's also the fantasy aspect too, with goblins and orcs and mermaids and dragons, all that as well, we really start off with our family with one monster origin story, and then it grows and it grows and it grows and it grows. So even though everything's in this and it's bananas, it makes sense.
Cool. Let me ask you a quick question then, just from a creative point of view then. Okay. One of the knocks on the movie Forrest Gump, which I know isn't particularly a horror movie, well, unless you like chocolates, is that it's hard to believe that so much happened to just one character. Right? Now you've got one family and they're coming across the original monsters and extended monsters and so on and so forth. How do you manage to sort of curtail that to kind of make sure that it flows correctly without feeling like, you know what, this must be the world's unluckiest family if they keep coming across all these bad guys, right?
Yeah. There's like I said, there's 5 different characters, and not something crazy doesn't happen to each one of them every issue. But in the miniseries, something nuts happens to each one of them. So it to me, like, if that's what's throwing you off, if you're like, okay, I'm okay with vampires, I'm okay with werewolves, I'm okay with resurrecting a human being from spare parts of corpses, but too much stuff happened to that one lady. It's like, all right, well, you're
no, I'm just kind of I'm interested from the creative point of view, because that from a how can I put this? So you can get caught up, can't you? You know what it's like when you're working on something, you become super focused on it, and then because you're super focused on it, your brain tricks yourself into saying, when I write reviews, for example, for Comic Crusaders, I have to go back and reread them like out aloud, because if I just glance at it, my brain says, yeah, that's right, even though it isn't, because I've spelled 17 words wrong or whatever. So I need that extra sort of like cushion just to kind of make myself say, right, yeah, I know that it's right. When you're doing something story-wise, I sometimes feel people can kind of miss the gap because they're so focused on it. And that's all my point was. I don't have a problem with it. I think part of the idea of comic books is, you know what? Stuff happens to the characters. That's the point of the whole thing. So I don't have a problem with it. I'm just thinking from a creative point of view, how do you make sure that it doesn't become Star Trek coincidental? You know what I'm saying? It's just everything that happens on Star Trek is just such a coincidence. Oh, it's so good that the Enterprise was on that planet just at that right time to stop whatever, but that was my point. It was no slight was intended.
Oh no. Yeah, we tried to put in our work to really plot this thing out really thoroughly. So I don't recommend this for anyone just starting off in comics, but when we were first doing this, it was like year one, and we're like, we're gonna do a 18 issue epic, and we which I knew I had seen don't do that over and over again, and I'm like, I will be the exception, and so far we've been doing it, but we plotted out all 5 of our main characters' story arcs as far as like what is their plot, what's going to happen to them, and their emotional character arcs, how are they going to grow and change through these experiences. So we plotted those both things out through 18 issues, and so we really have a clear roadmap of where we're going with this series.
Cool. Excellent. I've just brought up this page just to kind of show some of the differences we were talking about before. So this is kind of in the forest of Romania. The characters are having a bit of a set to, as I think is the polite phrase. But then, and lots of movements, lots of dynamic panel movement through there. And then the flip side of that is you get this.
Yes.
That's the contrast I was kind of go for, because I was like really impressed with the art. As I said earlier, the monsters, the monster art kind of grabbed me, whereas the character art I wanted to read through to understand them. So it was quite a nice. But you can't fall into that trap, because there are things going on in the monster world that you need to be aware of, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool.
It impacts their decisions, and like we try and take these even though they're monsters, we like to look at them as just like misunderstood characters, and
yeah I mean, vampires aren't really bad, they just happen to drink blood, and the only people where you can get that from is animals and humans. It's not really bad, they're just hungry. But like the steak's really, really rare.
Well, and the conflict between our older vampire and our apprentice vampire is that the older vampire, the reason why he looks kind of Nosferatu-ish and more deformed with his elongated fingers and things, is because he is starving himself. Because he doesn't want to feed on people. So he's more of a kind of noble vampire.
He's got Edward.
Yes. Whereas the apprentice is like,
he's a badass.
Yeah, he's bloodthirsty.
Yeah. It's like Angel and Spike all over again. You have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Called Inside Movies. What's this all about?
So it's me and 3 other comic book writers and artists, and we review 80s and 90s movies, primarily, mostly action movies. We're on a horror kick right now for Halloween, and once a week we get together and we review movies on our channel. There you go.
Check it out. Who are your collaborators on this then?
So I've got Andrew Buckley. He's a novelist, and we're working on a comic book series together right now. Murphy, she's the editor-in-chief of Merc Publishing. She also writes Miss Meow and Catfight and Born of Blood. And then GMB Kamichuk, he's a writer-illustrator. He worked on Baby Metal, which is like a Japanese metal band that's like huge, and he did the graphic novel for that, and it sold like through the roof. He's done over like 35 different projects, and he's a great dude and very funny. So we get together once a week and review these movies.
Cool. The link's there. Again, it's a long link, so if you want to check it out, easiest way to do it is to go to YouTube and type Inside Movies.
If you do, so we are a little bit buried because our channel is a little small. So if on YouTube, if you type at Inside Movies 1, we'll come up number 1.
There you go. Perfecto. There you go. I shall add that to my favorites later and do some watching. There you go. Cool. Excellent. Right. We'll have another quick roundup. Let's see. As we speak, you has it gone up? I think it might have gone up, you're currently sitting at 2,552 Canadian dollars. So you are now past the halfway point. You're now at 40 backers. We started at this, you were 38. That's impressive already, isn't it?
Yeah, we're halfway there. I'm excited.
Cool. Excellent. interested in the Kickstarter, there it is. There's the link. Pause the pod, write it down, or you could just go to Kickstarter, type in Cover of Darkness. You're looking for the hardcover and card game link.
So this is I'm actually really excited about this Kickstarter because this is the third one that I've done personally, and you know, the first one that I ever did, it was like 90% friends and family, and yes, and then the second one I did was about 40% friends and family, and this
who did you annoy the first time around?
Oh, yeah. Well, they're like, okay, George, we showed you some love the first time.
Yeah, we don't need any more horror in our lives, man.
Well, especially when it's like, you know, doing Kickstarters it's rough, like trying to get people's attention. And like, I was like writing like friends from high school. It's like, hey man, remember when I made that mixtape? Can you back my book, please?
Hey man, do you remember I threw you that football and you caught it for a touchdown? Do you want to, like, you know, get my comic?
Yes. And it's like, dude, I don't read comics, but fine. But so now, like on this Kickstarter, like so far, it's been like 95% people I have not met before, which is that's what you want as a you know as I go on in your comic book career, not to just have like your granny like continuing to support you.
Yeah. You go to your grand's house and there's like 4 copies of the same book. You're like, what? Well, that shows something, doesn't it? I mean, if you're saying that the first time around 40% was famine, that 60% is now new people. That means those 60% people are coming back for the third time around. That's what you want, isn't it?
I think it's 95% people I have not met on this new
So
Kickstarter.
there you go.
Yeah.
So that's the people who ordered previously and now coming back for more. That's what they want. You're creating an audience for yourself. Brilliant. Cool.
Yes.
Excellent. So there's a Kickstarter. For Inside Movies, you saw the link earlier. There it is. At Inside Movies 1 will get you to where you want to be. And you're on Instagram.
I'm on Instagram, yes.
Check
That's
that out.
That's my main social media there. Just even if you just type in Comic Book George, I'll pop right up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Lots of like sneak peeks on there for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Always sharing stuff on there.
Cool. Excellent. George, it's been an absolute pleasure, sir.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Johnny.
You are more than welcome. I loved your book. I'm gonna be blunt and honest. I looked at it a couple of days ago and I said to my wife, oh, it's another vampire book. Oh no. And then I read it because you should never judge a book by a cover, kids. And I was absolutely blown away. I was like, wow, I really enjoyed it. The writing is spot on. I really enjoyed it. The family dynamic works. The introduction to the monsters works. I like the twist with the monsters in the first issue that kind of give credence to a name, which I didn't think about until about 10 minutes ago. So that's how that just sits in my brain and like, oh, that's why he's called that. And there you go. So, you know, the joke did land eventually. Sorry. Time zones, right? I wish you all the success in the world. I think you're going to do fantastic. You know,
thank you.
21 days to go, 20 days to go, and you're only halfway there. Man, that's brilliant. Brilliant work. Well done.
Yeah, thank you. No, I love making books and telling stories, and it's an absolute pleasure. And I'm glad that people are responding to it and enjoying it.
Very good. Excellent. All right. There you go. That's us for another episode. George, thanks again one more time. Really appreciate your time. I know you must be really busy. Don't forget to check out the UCPN for all your favorite shows, including what did we say earlier? The Old Timers Comic Book Show, where the comics aren't, where the hosts aren't all, but the comics are. And if like George, like Batman, you've got the TDC, the Definitive Crusade, and if you like Marvel, well, check out the No Prize podcast for everything that is Marvel, MCU, and Disney Plus. There you go. What more could you want? A horror show. We'll work on that. I've been your host, Johnny the Machine Hughes, and as always, adios.
Visit undercovercapes.com for the latest and greatest podcasts via the Undercover Capes Podcast Network. Also visit our parent company website, comiccrusaders.com, all about comic pop culture.